Hey guys, it's Andrew back here near the Danforth area in Toronto with Kyle Lucey. We're going to ask people about inflation today and how it's affecting them. Kyle, what do you think kind of answers we're going to get?
We're going to get a lot of ums, probably a couple ahs, and maybe a few, what is this? What are you guys recording me for? What is this? What are you guys recording me for? And we're going to just see how autistic the people in Toronto are.
All right, let's check it out. We're just asking people if inflation and the cost of living increases has affected you.
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess it's weird. I've been in Canada for 3 years, so I did come in kind of already there, and I just watched it get worse.
Prices are higher than they've ever been, and I feel like wages also aren't getting any higher, so it's hard to combat inflation with the same price that you've been making.
Do you feel like inflation has affected your life?
A little.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, I guess so. It's affecting how we're shopping, how we're buying groceries. My mortgage is going to be coming up in 2 months, and it's definitely going to be affecting me then.
I think so, yeah.
Gas.
I see you're walking. How about yourself?
Probably. I guess like food. Like I live with my parents, so.
Do you feel that things have been a little bit more expensive lately?
I mean, sure.
Yeah, I think I've seen some things that are like more expensive than they kind of should be, I guess.
MGK, what do you feel about inflation in Canada?
Absolutely, yeah. We pay at least the double of what we used to pay like a year ago. It's absolutely crazy.
Has inflation affected your life at all, sir?
In the midsection.
Who would you say, or what would you say is to blame for such a stark increase in the prices of everything?
I'm not too sure, Probably the city, I guess.
I can't say that much. I genuinely can't say. I don't follow like politics that much or news. I work in construction and I'm an art guy.
Yeah, like peanut butter is like $10 for like a jar, and I personally have not been eating meat. I've just been spreading peanut butter on stuff as a source of protein, to be honest with you. Who do you think's to blame for inflation right now? Doug Ford, everybody.
That's a hard one, but I know the term just inflation, so
yeah,
maybe something there.
I think it's a world recession, so I guess market forces, I'm not sure.
Not educated on the whole political spectrum to understand really what's going on, but yeah, I wouldn't have an answer to that.
I think it's just the global economy in particular. I think every government in the world has experienced inflation, right?
You think that might be planned?
No, really. I think it's a consequence of what's going on.
I think there's like so much to blame for it. Like it's just the economy all over North America.
What happened with the COVID is that they had to borrow a lot of money, make a lot of money being like spread around the country. So obviously there is policy to blame here.
If you were to guess, like, is there a policy or a politician that you would think that is responsible for this, or what in general is responsible for the price hike?
I would say that it's become the most easiest thing to complain about.
Yeah, exactly, like and food prices.
The go-to conversation.
Do you think the increase in immigration levels that were recently announced are going to make things sustainable? Like if we look at housing and everything, do you think it's sustainable to keep bringing a massive amount of people in? Doesn't matter where they're from, but do you think it's sustainable to have that many people in coming all the time?
Absolutely not. And I feel like they're giving people that are not from the country more privilege in terms of housing and stuff like that, but for Canadian citizens. So I think it makes it harder.
I don't do that good of a Trudeau impression. But do you think, maybe I do. Maybe it's just like,
Let me get my coat. It's a bit chilly right now.
what do you think Justin Trudeau's spending this money on? Do you think he's getting like illegal massages?
I mean, if he is, good for him.
Sorry, no.
No? We're just talking about inflation.
We don't really talk to the news, but if you go to our website, jw.org, there's a news section there. You can find somebody to contact you.
So it's just, we're not even the news. This is just for my YouTube.
Sorry, no.
Okay.
No,
do you think that Canada, there is inflation right now, or?
We don't talk to the news. Sorry, my friend.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you.
I'll tell you this in a roundabout thing. I don't like the conspiracies and this and that, whatever, but the weird thing is they did shut us down. They had a global shutdown, but they did not globally fix come up with a plan. And then even these TTC cars had to go. Canadian banks profited so many billions. Also, they're like pushing everyone out of their homes. So how can they say, no, don't go to work, but
that's
pay your rent. Okay,
there you go.
Get out so we can hike the prices, but be safe. Absolutely be safe.
Yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts?
That's kind of my closing thought. Is there's a way bigger picture there, and it's not about complaining about it. It's kind of about just picking your own path and see
there you go.
Angle that you can work best at it.
Welcome back to another episode of Andrew Says. They're all special, aren't they? Comedian Kyle Lucey in the house. How are you, Kyle?
I'm swell. Thank you, Andrew.
That was a very formal answer. Lincoln, how are you?
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Okay, namaste, everyone. Kyle, we just got back from doing some streeters. You probably just watched it. What were your takeaways from that? So basically, we're asking, as everybody saw, that we're asking them how inflation has affected them. I think I told people that I was asking that it infected them, so maybe they got a little scared a couple times. Right. But we were talking about at the end there about how most people didn't really seem to have any notion as to what causes it at all. There was like one guy.
I feel like the average person is so programmed that they wake up, they smoke weed, and then they just watch Netflix and they're like, oh, that's funny. And they just love the feeling of like Oreos just dissolving on their molars, that they don't take the time to actually find out what's happening. And I barely do either, but at least I know I don't know what the fuck's going on.
That's fair. A lot of the people, they don't want... Did you get the feeling that a lot of people don't want to blame somebody? I mean, it's the federal government. Like, there's no question about it. The federal government that prints the money are the ones that print the money.
Right.
They're the cause for inflation. Maybe Justin Trudeau has been in long enough that it's his government. You get the feeling that people don't even want to be like quote unquote mean and say that, like, I blame the government.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with exactly what you just said, like they'll do like really crazy things that end up being harmful, and there's just no accountability for that. Like, it's almost like there's accountability if someone like from the right messes up. Like, you see how Trudeau just spoke against Doug Ford when he did the same thing, the notwithstanding clause. So like when people on the left do it, it's like, we're not even talking about that right now. This is a time for healing. Why would you even bring that up? But then there's like, pitchforks and like mobs when anyone else mess up. So it's just like the hypocrisy is starting to get a little annoying. And I think everybody is starting to wake up to it, but people just don't want to openly say like what's going on. Everybody's waiting for somebody else to raise their hand and say, hey, this is messed up. And then they might like it and share it privately. But a lot of people they just don't want to ruin their day-to-day, their everyday life. And it's a shame that just like, just speaking your mind does that now, which is pretty crazy. It shouldn't.
Yeah, and people might have some preconceived notion going out there as Rebel News and be like, you must like Doug Ford. But most of the people here don't like Doug Ford, if I may say so. I mean, when he first came in, he sort of did some things right, I thought. But when you talk about the notwithstanding clause and everything, and Trudeau saying how bad it is when Ford does it, and I agree that he shouldn't be, which they've now taken away, by the way, passing this thing that says you can't strike, which is obviously against the norms of this country. But when Justin Trudeau does it, it's okay because it's against people I disagree with. I think it's bad at all times. I might disagree with the reasons why people are doing it, but you should still be able to protest. And I think a lot of people have these preconceived notions that are now going away, where you sort of see, you can see them, and there's a David Menzies video where he's asking these protesters, you can sort of see the gears working where they're thinking, well, I didn't like it when Justin Trudeau, or I did like it when Justin Trudeau did it because I'm against the truckers or whatever, but now they're doing it to me, and I don't understand why people dislike it. Like, they're getting there, and I think people are getting closer and closer. And Lincoln, you were there, right? Did you get that vibe, or am I way off? Like, were people starting to realize, hey, like, we're not that far away from these, like, trucker supporter people or freedom convoy people that I thought I was? I wasn't as far away from them ideologically as I actually think, or did they not get it at all?
Yeah, at first, but now I feel like that narrative quickly changed, because now a lot of the people that were on board, like when the convoy first started, like a lot of Canadians were on board with everything, but then they lost a lot of Canadians when they stayed there in Ottawa. A lot of people felt like they should have left. So honestly, and after hearing the reviews with the commission and everything, I feel like that's like the consensus that most Canadians have, is that they should have left. It was weird. At first, they were all on board, but honestly, a lot of the supporters kind of, switched gears when they saw it was going on for like 2-3 weeks. So I don't know. It's tough to say.
I just don't understand, like, why people are okay with the government being the ones to tell you to shut everything down, but people can't ever decide that. And it's not like anybody was getting hurt. We know that for a fact. Nobody got hurt. Crime actually went down because people weren't doing anything. And that's okay for when the government says you can't go to work or shut these things down for your safety. It's like you have to sort of have this belief in the government that it's a group of people who are very smart, who would only do decisions when it's absolutely necessary, and that's just not true.
Yeah, they're not held to the same standard at all, and that's frustrating.
Now, some of the people were saying that, of course, costs of groceries have gone up. Of course, gas. Some younger people said it's too expensive for gas. Maybe they don't own their own car, or their parents make them pay for the gas. But that's hard to avoid. But still here, they don't have anyone to blame. If that happened in America, America's very heavy on how much energy costs when their elections come around. Do you think there's going to be something, or is there a topic that gets people to say, hey, there isn't really a difference here between the Liberals and Conservatives, if you agree with that?
I think, yeah, like, we all know that, like, Canadian Conservative is an American Liberal, like, politically. So, but what I do notice is that no one pins any blame on anyone who's liberal, even when they mess up. It has to be really obvious. Like, I find everybody will, speak up against Justin Trudeau wearing something like blackface. But, for everyday things, and especially for some of the decisions he's made, it's more quiet. Mm-hmm. It's more people will say it to me. And like what I noticed too when I was like doing shows and stuff like that, is that people would be like, hey, can you share this? Can you post this? Can you do this? And it's like just saying like Justin Trudeau is a communist or whatever. And it's like, well, why don't you do it? You know what I'm saying? Like, as I'm already posting, I made like the Canadian flag, but I took out the leaf and I put the hammer and sickle. And I would like post stuff like that. And it's like, well, why don't you post it? No, everybody's afraid. And there is a lot of fear going on because, if you speak up against this, then you will lose out in certain avenues. And that's just like, that's starting to happen to some of our friends. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we can transition that into what we were talking about earlier. Our sweet, way too long car ride back to the studio from the streets. Takes like an hour to get 3.5 kilometers or something. There was a cancellation of Ben Bankus and Danny Polishuk, who's got the podcast with Ryan Long, who's been on the show. And that was a comedy club saying, hey, 24 hours before your show happens, we're offended by you. And you were saying that's happening in a way where it's like, basically you're blaming the booker for not knowing who the person is. And you had a funny comparison to like Slayer.
Well, yeah, it's like these. Okay, so if you're going to put a comedy show on, everybody's just so lazy. They don't do the research. They just book, and then someone shows up and they start freaking out. But like if you had like a banquet hall and it's for, the event's for like, a 60th anniversary and everybody's 80 years old and you book a death metal band, that's on you. You know what I mean? So it's no problem. Like if you own a business, it's no problem if you want it to be a certain way for your clientele. Nobody's saying anything against that. But it's when you make a mistake and you make this last minute change and you put the artist and you also put everybody who came out to see that artist, you know, in this really weird position. How do you then stand like as a, I guess they're trying to take this like moral stance, but it's like, it's just so unnecessary to inconvenience people in this way when you're the one who didn't do the research. You know what I'm saying? Like, and what happened with Andrew Schultz? What was that? Massey Hall. It's like, you guys don't know who Andrew Schultz is? You couldn't have just YouTubed him? You're going to cancel it last minute once he booked the date, once the artist, you know, put money into advertisement, put, you know, that there's like money at stake here, and it makes them look bad to their fans and stuff. And it's like, all of this could have been avoided. Maybe when people reach out to your venue, that's when you do the research. Hey, should we get this person? But that never happens, you know? So,
well, that is something that people can come together on, because I notice whenever there's a story about whether it was Chappelle being canceled or these people canceling somebody because they're offended, that's something I think where people from both sides come out and say, hey, that's something we don't want. And to your point, they'll say, if you don't want it, then like, why did you have them there in the first place? There are going to be, of course, the hyper like leftist people who say, oh, that's actually offensive and you're denigrating people. But I think for the most part, probably over 90% of people think that you shouldn't be, you know, saying that a person can't speak. But we are in Canada, and there are laws against, like, it would be within legal grounds of the government to say your jokes are hate speech, and that's why there's a problem with our system. And that's why I think people probably have a problem with it, but they don't realize that we do not actually have freedom of speech, basically even as a concept anymore. But you also mentioned how he had a YouTube video taken down. I think it was because he was commenting on, like, what he says is anti-Semitism, and they took down his criticism. He's saying that other people shouldn't be anti-Semitic.
and this is Danny Polachuk, a Jewish person.
Yeah,
so.
and then they took down his video for criticizing that, which is obviously inverted, whether you disagree with him or not.
Dude, it's just like robots that are behind it. Like, he said anti-Semitism, and they just like take it. The servers just take it off. Like, it's if there was like a human being behind it, it'd be like, well, he's Jewish and he's making fun of it. Like, there used to be in comedy, like, you know, Russell Peters would like, you know, go up on stage and he'd make fun of himself and his ethnicity and his cultural heritage, and then that he would leapfrog to sort of do other people's stuff like that. But it's like, so that's sort of, you know, in comedy, a lot of people make fun of themselves. But when you can't even do that anymore, it's like a huge problem. And obviously there's so much oversight and they're ruining people's lives, because comedy right now, it's all about content. So when you ban somebody off of a platform when they're making fun of themselves, it's like the most ridiculous thing ever.
Do you really think that they would be okay with it? I get the context. I think in some of these left-wing institutions of social media, and we're seeing that with Twitter now, they don't want anything they don't like. So I'm not sure if in Silicon Valley they have actual people sitting there. Would they say, oh, I get his context, I'm going to allow it to be up? I think there's still people there that are going to click on things. And I think that's been proven with the Project Veritas stuff, the undercover videos of Facebook and Twitter, where I remember one saying where a person has an American flag and a cross in their profile, like, those people don't exist. They're obviously bots without any evidence, and we're going to shadow ban them. But it happened to you, though, didn't it? You making fun of yourself. It was, what was it?
Well, I did a post.
Calling yourself white trash.
It was so crazy, too. Because I have a joke saying, and I don't know if this is going to make me like look bad, but I've actually never voted. I like literally everyone's like, it's the election today. And I'm like, like I'm literally on the toilet taking a shit. Like, I've never gotten to it. Right. And then I have a joke saying like, I've never voted provincially or federally. I've never, but that being said, every day I go online and I vote for Eminem to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And he finally did it.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's what my joke was. And then the caption of that was like, oh, look how white trash I am. Or it was something like that. And then it got taken down and my account got like on, you know, I have like almost 40,000 followers on Instagram. And it got like, I couldn't post or do anything for 2 days. And they're like, you might lose your entire account. And I'm like, you know, where does that put a guy like me when content is so important? Arguably, content's more important than doing like live shows now. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to like take away this thing that I built for like 10 years because, I call myself white trash. That doesn't even make sense. And, it's just weird, like how that would happen. And I don't know. It just, it's so stupid. And obviously there's not like a sane person behind a decision like that, which is just like, it creates so much frustration. So it's hard to even, I don't think people can like get canceled. And I have a theory on that because like,
let's hear it.
Well, like, look at someone like Louis. He just won an Emmy. You know what I'm saying? Like
for his album, right? For a comedy album.
For comedy. So it's like, basically, here's what it is. In your route to like, in comedy, whatever your name is, let's even use me, Kyle Lucey, whatever. That's a brand. That's the same thing as like Adidas or some, obviously way less. And obviously my brand is covered in lice.
Are Adidas covered in lice?
No.
Or is that just a saying?
No, just swastikas according to Kanye.
Right, okay.
But like, no, like you have your brand, right? And then you could either be someone who like blows your brand up to the moon by posting your own content and stuff like that, or you could like call in networks to bolster your brand. And so anytime you do something like a scandal or something like that, the networks or whoever who have bolstered your brand have the option to then say, hey, I don't want to associate with this brand. So, look at someone like Kanye West. He had several things like Adidas that were bolstering him up to be a billionaire. Now, he's completely, if he did his own thing and then shot back up, it's like, is he canceled? No, he's like right back up. Like anyone who, you could essentially just do it yourself and then no one could cancel you. You just lose the things that were given you by like other networks. Louis is also a good example. Yeah, he lost his show on FX, but they still gave it to him. You know what I mean? So other things weren't bolstering him, but then he just said, okay, now my website is like what I'm using as my own network. And then now he's back. And so it's like, even if you get like your Instagram account or whatever taken away, bro, my TikTok I've been banned like 8 times on TikTok. Like literally, if you sign in on TikTok, it says sign in through Facebook, sign in through Twitter, sign in through Gmail, and sign in through Google. I've been banned from all of those, and now I make fake Gmails to do it all over again. You're never really going to be banned. You know what I'm saying? You just keep making fake accounts and uploading content.
Yeah, as long as the video has your name on it in some way.
Yeah, like it now. Like first it was Kyle Lucey Comedy. And then I said Kyle Lucey Comedy, so CUMEDY. So it's like, whatever. And then I just changed it, and then I'm back. So it's like...
anybody tell you you're not a brilliant writer.
Yeah, I mean...
like, how did you get to, like, almost 40K followers? Was it gradual, or did you have, like, a couple hits that just, like, spiked you up?
Like, it's weird. I'm right now experiencing something where... So, okay, so, like, maybe, like, 8 years ago, this is going to be very cringe. So I did a bunch of like acting work or whatever where I was like on set and stuff like that. And so like people from like Brazil would follow me, but like, oh, he's famous. And then I posted like shirtless selfies up the ass with like 30 fucking hashtags a pop. And then it just like I started getting like 700 likes. Then when stuff like Reels were introduced, I was like, oh, now's a good time to like post my comedy. So I actually had like close to, I have 36,000. And then I was close to 50,000. So then I started posting clips of my comedy, and my comedy's more like dirty or whatever, or X-rated. When I started posting clips of my comedy, I lost 20,000 followers.
Oh my God.
So then like nothing happened. And so now I've been consistent again. And, I've had a couple videos get like a couple 100,000 views or whatever. But that took, like I post 10 times a day now. So it's so important to like have content.
Yeah, because if you don't, it's just you see the followers they just dribble down. If you don't post anything.
That's it. You sort of have to like keep blowing up or else it's just exactly how you said, it just goes down. And I don't get anything from having a following or whatever, but like if you get something like 100,000 followers, then you could like start selling tickets as a comedian. You could start doing your own thing. So it's very important to do that. So when you put something like that in jeopardy, I don't think you know, I don't think the people who are doing that understand like the domino effect it has on artists. But, you know, this country doesn't give a fuck about its artists.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like you look at like Spotify, Weeknd is #1 right now on Spotify. You know what I'm saying? A Canadian artist. Justin Bieber is #6. I was literally on the way
here. You
here.
really know these rankings. Right?
No, like I like to always keep up to date which Canadians are like, and Drake is like 9 or something like that. Like Canadians are dominating the music industry, but it's like, okay, do we get any grant? Like I was even applying for grants and stuff like that to do like a one-man show. Comedy is not recognized as an art, so we get no grant funding. But storytelling is an art. What the like?
You're gonna need to do your own slam poetry then.
Who goes to a storytelling show ever? But people go to comedy clubs. But what are you gonna? Let's go to a storytelling show and drink red wine. And there's 4 people in the audience and a fucking cat as a barista.
Berets are probably very prevalent.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of whack, but it is what it is. It's I don't know. I don't even know.
Switching gears a bit back to the streeters we did. I really enjoyed. I don't know if you've experienced this before. I know you've been doing some sort of that content recently, but I'm not sure you've ever had the pleasure of enjoying the guy who might be drunk or on drugs never stopping talking to you. Because the one guy you probably saw in the video, I thought he was going to hug you or attack you, whichever one.
He looked like he had like he was grinding his teeth like he just fucking dumped a bunch of fentanyl in his Frosted Flakes. He was on something, but
He had the right answers, though. He was like, this is a global shutdown. It's something else. He really wanted to get you to say something for some reason. He came to us.
I know.
He said, not much sound coming from that microphone. And I was like, usually microphones are not emitting sound. They're receiving. He's like, oh, it's a conversation starter. It's like, so you really saw a person with a microphone. And you wanted to really talk to them. And then you wanted to put the onus on us to say things. It was very strange. And I wasn't sure if you'd experienced such a lengthy interview with a possibly homeless man. I couldn't tell what was in his bags.
He was wearing, I know. He was wearing like brand name clothing, but also those brand name clothing were covered in urine. So there's also that to account for. I wanted to just I like getting guys like that and just like giving them like $30 if they could bite the head off of a pigeon or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like just that'd be hilarious. But yeah, he was certainly on something. I have a feeling that he is no longer in contact with his children. But you ever just look at a person and you just see all the tartar in their teeth, and you're like, your stepdaughter doesn't talk to you anymore, does she? You have a lot of tartar in like honestly, so much tartar in the teeth where you could like chisel it away and like make a statue of David in the molars.
We're going to stop you guys right there with Uncle Laser and 5 Times August. We got more content for you at rebelnewsplus.com. Bonus segments as we do every week. And you can also get Ezra Levant's show and all of our documentaries. So go to rebelnewsplus.com right now, $8 a month. Or cheaper if you want to go the full year. It's cheaper than Netflix and Amazon Prime. And you'll get all of our documentaries that you've been hearing about. All the bonus segments for my show. And you don't want to miss this because 5 Times August is really talented and Uncle Laser's hilarious. We'll see you guys next week.